All right. So, what the hell? Hold on, I gotta get out. Somebody got a cart against my car. All right, I'm back. Somebody had put a shopping cart against little my little car truck here at Home Depot. Anyway, so I was looking at some miscellaneous news clips in the last couple of days and stuff I've been thinking about, like with just our infrastructure or the way we use things, the way we market them, the way we broadcast news, where we broadcast what we want people to believe or what we want them to know. And I said it that way because anybody, if you're gonna, oh, I didn't know it's full moon. Anybody that's willing to admit, even if they don't want people to know, that's an accurate statement. There's some stuff that we want people to know, and there's some stuff that we want them to believe. And when I say we, it's not an all-inclusive, we're all lying and fucking with everybody. It's just, it's easier for me to do the recording that way. So, anyway, so, you know, electric bills have been going pretty high. It's winter time and all, you know. And like always, they sit there and, you know, they'll raise it up, you know, as they say, it's supply and demand. I'm going to be a little bit condescending on some stuff. And some of the stuff that I say that sounds like a little dig, it more than likely it is. And I will sit there and say if it's not. The electrical grid, they're making claims or making statements saying that it's, sorry, my nose is itching, saying it's dated, that it's not up to date, that, you know, the stuff is aging and it's wearing down. There is fragments of that are truthful fragments, especially when you get into larger city environments like New York and St. Louis, because they're not able to get to every single piece of it on a regular basis. But our infrastructure for the electrical grid alone by itself is 100%, oh, and our cell phones, but the electrical grid, it's 100% built as it's needed. There is provisions at the substations and places like that to build for the growth and on the main transmission lines and stuff. But when it comes to the power for the houses and the businesses, every piece of it is built as the businesses and houses arrive. So it's updated constantly. And then when there's repairs and wire, it'll fatigue from the wind and stuff, but it doesn't disintegrate as long as they're using the proper grade. If they're using shitty grade wire, alloy mixes, it will disintegrate. If they're not, it won't. But it will stretch and it can break. But that's not dated. That's just maintenance. The poles, they do get wore and they do get changed when they need them. They try to change them ahead of time. They're always working on it. Always, constantly. They are not behind on maintenance. They are not behind on the infrastructure, on the transmission of it and the bulk of it going to any substation and going to any subdivision. It will be hard to have it all proper and updated in the bigger city environments because it's not all above ground. Some's in the ground and things like it. But anytime a business updates their panels or updates their service, they pull a new load of or new wad of wire. They update the meters. The panels are updated. You know, they're not disintegrating. They're not aged and going to fail. The energy grid, when it fails, it's not because it's not big enough. It's not because it's overloaded. It's not because it's outdated. There is so much effort that goes into making sure that that shit is ready to go all the time. Okay? I'll get into it more. Some people are going to not like the way I'm talking, but the thing is we are all supposed to do this together. And everybody's getting super, super comfortable with the, hey, they don't know any better, so let's keep bending them over and fucking them. There's a certain level of that when they don't know, sometimes that innocent mindset, ignorance is bliss, is better for the average schmo because it's less stress or not worried or whatever it may be. If they don't know, I mean, it's not that big a deal, right? No, it's not that big a deal, but the problem is, and it's not a problem if you're doing it well. It's not that big a deal, but you guys are getting out of control. You're doing it on everything now. The wind could change direction and now it's a natural disaster again. Oh, AI. Let's just pick AI. Well, because let's pick supply and demand. Well, when the supply or demand goes up, well, we need to raise the price because we got to supply it. Oh, you mean supply us with everything that you've already been paid to do? You've been paid every day or every week or every month, however you set it up. But you've been paid from our accounts. And then you've also been paid by us because ignorance is bliss. Some people will listen to this and they won't understand that statement. But the people that do understand it, the difference. There's a difference. Is that how you teach your kids to play ball, to play sports, to have a relationship with their wife? If they don't know, it doesn't matter, little Billy. You're allowed to fuck 10 of them. If she don't know, you're good. It's not cheating if she doesn't know. Is it not cheating if they don't know? If accepted business practice is immoral, if you're keeping something from somebody because you might get caught or you might get frowned upon because of overindulgence or double dipping or maybe more, then maybe that's something to keep in mind. Because look how much you guys are increasing it now. You're saying because AI drawing so much from our outdated power grid. And trust me, I know where I'm going with this. And we know we're not outdated. And we know that there's power going to a lot of places nobody has any idea. I mean, there's a nation below a nation. Do people really think that our outdated power grid with all the wind turbines that are going up? I mean, there's a shitload of them, a lot. All of the solar panels that are going up on houses, on top of gas stations. But what about the random solar panel farms that are like ungodly huge in the middle of nowhere? And it isn't because of the sun availability, because that's a lot of transmission line just because. Maybe people should start looking and seeing where those random, well-placed solar farms are. Maybe they should wonder the terrain, the subterranean, the need. Who's benefiting from that? And how come our system is still called it outdated when it's almost state of the art? AI is the companies that have all the different server installations like Google and Chat or OpenAI and Microsoft and so on. I'm not going to pretend I even know them all, but all these places and then all these big businesses, like SpaceX and McDonnell Douglas and Boeing and all these different places and all the different airports, they all have an electric bill, right? They have an electric bill that the business covers. They have an electric bill that they're allowed to pull for every customer or resident in that certain mile radius, depending on the type of service they provide, like a hospital or just anything like that. They're allowed to pull a mandated or an approved or an appraised or an estimated value on a regular scheduled basis for each individual resident and the people dwelling within their home to cover their needs, to cover your service. So the airport has for however many people, for however much they determine the drive time to get there in that circle radius. They have funds that are approved on a regular scheduled basis for what the estimated average and amount of travel for the normal resident of that area. So whether it's 2 trips a year or 3, whatever they figure, whether you take them or not, they get compensated for them every pay period that they're allowed to bill for it. GM, you're sanctioned for a car for 1 new vehicle per year per adult in your household. So whatever legal adult is in your area, in your household. So if you have 2 adult children or just 1, and you have you and your wife, that's 3 new vehicles per year. You don't have to get them that often, but you are slotted that amount. That means that comes out of funding that's dedicated for your use or to be used for you to the service providers in your area that you're within their radius. So if it's Walmart, if it's Costco, or if it's the car dealer or the hospital or the airport, wherever it is, you're covered for what is an approved amount of use. All you got to do is show up and show your ID. Prove that you're the proper person to receive that service in that name that you're receiving it in, and then everything will get logged, and you log whatever you got to do, and you're golden. Our propane, our natural gas, our electric, our water, our sewer, our property taxes, our vehicle insurance, our vehicle registrations. Okay? So when they sit there and tell you that our outdated and under-equipped or failing infrastructure, it's not failing, you guys. You just believe them. You believe them. It's not failing. And it's not overused because all these server installations, I don't care how big they are, most of those people that put them in, when they get the permits and shit for doing it, usually it's required that they make sure they have enough backup power to run their stuff so they don't overload the grid. It's so if they have to, that shit kicks on so the grid does not get overloaded. Your prices aren't going up because, we need to catch up and make up for that. Because just like your home, or just like the place you work, even if it's just a car mechanic shop, when that building was built, the person, the contractor or whoever, between them and the service provider like Quiver River or Ameren or whoever it is, they get together, say what's needed, they decide who's going to share what costs, and the equipment is put in, the wire is put in, and it's hooked to the grid. And the grid is updated or adapted to fit the load, because if you're going to build something as big as a server farm, you didn't just start drawing it this year. You've been drawing it for a while. Just like Mercy that's getting ready to go in here in Wentzville, but it's not going to be here for a long time. Maybe 5 more years or so, I don't know, maybe more. They're already working on it, but you can't really tell. People just think they're just grooming the highways. They're not underpowered. And you know what? If they are, the only bill that should pay for it is the bill who's using it. And we have to pay those Google, and we have to pay ChatGPT, and we have to pay Microsoft to use their servers. So why does the electric bills have to go up on your daily usage at home or anywhere else? Each business, each resident, each homeowner, they're paying a fair market value. Actually, you're approving a fair market value that's already been sanctioned and budgeted for the year. Every year they rebudget. Every year they get compensated for your use, for you living in their circle of service. And then, for some reason, since we don't get taught the right way to interact, we assume that those statements that we receive at home, that we're supposed to make sure that their billing and funding is correct. That's what those statements are for. We're supposed to state if we accept or if we agree or don't agree. And then we do our part, we interact, we do the work, we separate the stub from the statement. We put it back in the package with the proper endorsement, and we send it back to the service provider because they provided us with a check or a money order or a negotiable instrument or whatever you want to call it, to make sure we're negotiating it. They sent what they did. We're supposed to say, yep, that's what happened, so that they're allowed to have accountability, and we're showing that we're paying attention for what we're getting compensated to do. The accountants, the Treasury, the IRS, the government, and they're making sure the funds go where they need to go, but we need to make sure that it's happening accurately. The infrastructure is not weak. It's not outdated. It's not broken. It's not failing. Yes, we could be fucked up with hacker attacks or EMPs. But even the nation underneath of us has power provided for them. They're covered, but they get priority, by the way. If you ever noticed, if you've ever lived anywhere where there's data consumption and you have slow data, like me, I've been here 25 years. You know, I've had 1 year now full of gateway fiber, which is whatever everybody else was getting in Charter and stuff. I just now got that 24 years later, when I was running at 3 to 6 gig. And it wasn't ever hardly at 6. And I shit you not. You think that it's because they said I live at the end of the run. What, for 24 years I was too far away? That particular item right there is because of consumption by unseen use. Nation below a nation. So it's just, those are the things that I wanted to say to vent, just pop some stuff in people's head. So then the thing is, well, what do we do about it? Well, that's a good question. It's hard to figure out what to do, because when we do try to interact with anybody that's supposed to be an agency for accountability, they make you have to write them physical letters to places you don't know if they're going to get it or received it. They don't let you know if they do anything. So they tell you you're supposed to keep watch on this nation, watch for fraud, report it because it's your responsibility. They give you bogus, placebo contacts. If they deem that something is worthy enough for more interaction, they'll have a special team or agents call you that aren't listed in the public access for the contacts. So unless you word it proper, or if you show that you have enough knowledge in you to even have the conversation, you'll never hear nothing again. But you're demanded to interact responsibly, wholly, and you are supposed to make sure you point out every ounce of fallacy that you come across. Well, when you come across an abundance of it and they won't contact you and they know it's there, what are you supposed to do? What if the numbers they give you are just blow smoke up your ass numbers? They don't do anything. Or the emails. They say the mail's more less fraudulent. It's part of the money machine too. It's got account numbers and routing numbers on it too. So if you're not part of the enterprise, if you're not part of the system, you're not allowed to actually call out any fraudulent activity and it matter. You're allowed to call it out, and they demand you call it out because they want to see who's noticing what. Notice some more, people. Look around when you drive. Look for miscellaneous power transformers that are in triplets in weird places where there's no conduits going anywhere but into the ground with nothing in the environment. And they don't even, that's it. Middle of nowhere. Three phases going down in the dirt, middle of nowhere, but the poles keep going. So it's not like they stopped. Where's it going? Why do you hear what you hear? That doesn't add up. Why does the smell the way it is? Why is there so much moss on your land and there's never any? It's on the highest part of the ground. Why do your trees look like they have cancer on the bottom of the limbs, but not on the top? You need to look around. You need to look at the ground. You need to look at the environment. You need to look up from your phones. You need to look up from the person's ass you have your nose buried in. Don't get all conspiracy and don't get all weirded out, but you just need to be aware. Because if a moment did come where somebody said, hey man, can you go with me and talk to somebody about this stuff so we can both do it? Then you could, and not sound like you're talking about unicorns with stuffing falling out of their butt. Because for one, unless we work together at all, even if we're not all in one room, we're never going to get any attention that we need to begin with. And anybody that doesn't look around, all you're going to do is everybody that's trying to fight for your ass, you're going to condemn them, tell them they're crazy, make fun of them, and badmouth them for fucking being right. And you didn't even know it because you're too arrogant and ignorant and lazy. If you haven't looked for yourself, you don't know. If you think you read a piece of newspaper and you know the facts, you're wrong. You're wrong. That's no different than listening to somebody's fishing stories or a guy talking about how long his dick is. Unless you check for yourself, you don't know. I don't care if you trust them or not. You don't know. If you didn't check or didn't go with them or do the research at any level, don't tell them they don't know what they're talking about unless you know because you did the research. We all want to say they don't know what they're talking about. You want to know why? Because none of us want to think that we got duped. And it's happening at a higher scale and percentage every day. So when is enough? When are you going to let them stop milking your cock or licking your wife while you watch? I mean, how long are you going to let them keep doing that and violating your space and your honor and what's rightfully yours to have pure in your life? But it's not rightful if we don't even try to educate ourselves. It is. What's rightful? There's nothing that's happening right now in our nation that should be taken away from anybody other than if they absolutely do not know how to do it or can't think that way. But even with bad choices in your life, that does not waive your rights. It makes it harder for you to defend them. It makes it harder to know if they can trust you. It makes it harder to be honorable if you're lying or stealing or hurting. But your life choices aren't an obliterator of your rights. Because rights are things that have been given to you, handed down. They're yours. They're rightfully. Okay? Even if you don't know you have them, if they've been given, assigned, and set aside in your name, and you've been given this chance to be, and they've made it seem like you're the authority, if you're signing documents and proving them for yourself, you have authority to defend and know everything I'm talking about, rightfully. But that doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean they'll respond. And it doesn't mean it gives you the right to blow up and be an ignorant ass and act like the world owes you King Kong. The world doesn't owe us a damn thing except for the space to try. And it doesn't owe us that. It's here. It's available. It's ours to use. Every piece we stand on, it's already paid for. If you want to look at the spiritual side of it, everything's been bought and paid for by his blood. The flow of blood, the flow of energy, the flow of life, it's all the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's your blood, your breath, your water, or your money, or your energy. It's all the same. It's all made from the same earth. Every single piece of it came from earth. The energy comes from somewhere special. It comes from everywhere. Everywhere. Not just here. It comes from its interaction with the universe. The Earth's interaction with the galaxy and the galaxy with the universe and everything within it and on it and here. We all share it. It belongs to every single one of us. Every single one of you. So if you're going to go to church and claim that you've been saved because he died for your sins, then why are you acting like I'm the crazy one by what I speak right now? If you go to some of the more elect religious institutions, you'll learn this if you've been there long enough. You got to work your way up through tenure. Same way with private institutions like I don't want to call out any names, but like when we used to have Knights of Templar kind of shit and whatever we have now. Actually, I do want to. We'll just go Knights of Columbus. We'll go Masons. We'll go whatever. Doesn't mean they're bad people, but they do things that do leverage opportunities that aren't seen by others. And that means if they don't know, they're not really doing anything wrong, right? Some aren't doing anything wrong. But if you want to know how to work the system and learn about it, if you're part of one of those systems, pay attention and ask some questions. You want to know about some insurance? Ask the Knights of Columbus. You want to know about financing and banking and different things like that? Ask some Masons. They're smart. They all are. They're very smart. But our bigotry and our conspiracy and our biased thoughts segregates us, and it makes them want to segregate us for good reasons, because we can be ignorant when we act like we know everything and that they're bad. Maybe the bad part is when everybody on each side's mind is closed because they think each side's better. It makes a war that separates us on purpose. It makes a war that separates us on purpose because that way there's not so many to figure out how to house in different places when things are harder and locked down. If we have an infrastructure that's failing and weak, well, then we would have more funds to build an infrastructure that people can't see for them, so they don't have to dip into their own pockets when they're not anyways. We have failing pipelines, or we need to pump fuel to places, and we open up a brand new flow and a new hub to receive it from. That usually makes prices go down, but not around me. It made them go up the week it happened, 3 days after the connection was made. It went up about 3 times, came back down 1 time. Supply and demand. If you get more, isn't it supposed to go down? No. They monopolize on it. And I'm not being sarcastic, and I'm not making digs. These are actual factual events. They monopolize on it because they're preparing their system to endure when they neglect us and abandon us with us and our system, that they'll be turned off because they're going to divert it all. It isn't going to be because it fucking failed. It's going to be because they diverted the load. Because that means the system went full operation. I'm not going to give everything now, but I'm not making this up because everything I'm talking about, I'm witnessing. I've been doing the research. Ask me about the virus test kits and how many were made a day for astronauts. 20 viruses tested at one time in this test kit by the palletfuls every day. How many astronauts need that many virus test kits? So since I went there, what would you do that for if you were in charge of the system where we're going to divert the load, where we're diverting the resources? And it's not that it's not for a good reason, but any closed system can only have so many inhabitants, just so you know. Which means people have to make tough choices, and they have to guard and enforce the flow of traffic in and out of spaces. And when they implement different kinds of things into the public, well, then they have to have a system to test to make sure that their people that are coming in and out of these transitional spots are safe enough to let back in, or the ones that are coming in so they can be allowed in. So 20 viruses in this test kit, and we just went through a COVID release. How many do you think you're going to let out there, you guys? And just so you know, COVID, if anybody wants to do any research, the micro metallic material, copper filament, whatever you want to call it, that's in there, microscopic copper fiber. Anytime you use something microscopic and like that, it's like stop leak. It will pool. Copper reacts with magnetic fields. It will repel from the strongest parts, but it'll lodge into the other places where they're weak. So where you have a weak magnetic field, the copper will reside there and it will pool because it reacts and it jumps away from magnetic fields. So it's going to tuck itself into the farthest corners and it's going to cause blood clots. The other thing it's going to do is it's also a great, it's like putting dye in for MRIs. It allows you to be seen differently. It allows you to receive frequency differently. It allows you to be manipulated and broadcast differently because you'll have metal or metallic fiber, microscopic fiber in your brain capillaries, and a magnetic field will make them react. A magnetic field will make them nervous and skittish and want to jump and escape and cause damage, cause short circuit and whatever. It's just going to fuck us up. I can't help it when I say that I say. I can help if I say it. I can't help it what I see. Okay? I try to work with both sides of my world because it's all my world to work with. It's not my fault that they want to separate and they want to separate and you want to separate. It's not my fault. That's your fault. Their fault and their fault. If I make you uncomfortable because I'm trying to interact with the people in my world, isn't that what you tell everybody we're supposed to do as long as they're in your circle or in your environment? Well, my environment is life. That's what God tells me. My world is our world. It's our responsibility. That means that there's no favorite side. It means do what's right to protect the most life that you can. And you'll have to accept that that means you can only protect as much as you can. With that intent being pure, that's livable. What about when you pass away and you have to finish watching what we're suffering through because you helped build it? Watch your children, their children, suffer through something that you built if you did it with malintent. It's not your burden, I guess, but I'm sure you'll get the opportunity to watch. All right. I love you guys. Please keep open minds. Don't be so gullible, because if electric bills go up because a business made itself bigger, how stupid can you be? Fucking turn your electric off and don't use it and suffer just to make a point or something. Because damn it, nobody raised the prices when you built your house. They just charge you more. Right? You upgrade your service, they charge you. They already charge you at the different time periods of the day. Don't you know how much free electric they get just by the amount of cables they have in the air? Come on, people. There's thousands and thousands of miles of wire in the air receiving energy all day long, all night long. Free. Free. Because it's in the life, in the nature it came from, existing and interacting. All That's why they don't bury them. Because people say, well, because if they break and then maintenance. How many pipelines do we have under the ground that have been there for so goddamn long? I don't think that's why. But if they do it on top and they get the easements, they're allowed to own the ground underneath. And when you own the ground underneath, once you're underneath, you can go any direction you want and you don't have to pay for anything extra other than your easement. Energy consortium, energy cooperatives, energy, gas, oil, minerals, water, energy, easement. You just gave them access to your whole land just by a 50-foot wide easement. But you only got paid for barely enough to cover the width that you gave them. And you have to pay taxes on all of it, and they use every single piece of it underneath of you if they want. Bye-bye. And Happy New Year, you guys. And sorry for dropping a bomb, but I just want you to think, please.